Wow, we are back again, my friends. Bags, Jeff DI, G Piza, or Ben, Nick, and Gotum. Hey, you're watching Stocktwits Community Rip Live. It's 2:15 on a Wednesday, so what else you got doing? You're not working. You're just sitting at your desk, right? So tune us in. Put us on YouTube. Watch us on Stocktwits or X. We're streaming in all those places. Hey, guys, how are we?
Yeah, pretty good.
GP is starting his vow of silence today. Hey, GP, how are you, really?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm very good. If you're not having fun in these markets, maybe the markets aren't for you. Just my thoughts. The stuff, as much as it's frustrating, I absolutely love just being here and getting a chance to share, talk, BS, all these things, backstage, front stage. It doesn't matter. It's all fun.
That's
And
how we
thank you,
became
guys.
friends. That's how the
We
three of
were
us became
friends.
friends, right?
Thought we were brothers, not friends.
We're brothers, friends, frenemies, sometimes fight over stock price and action and this and that. But hey, we love each other nonetheless. And Stocktwits brought that together. That's why this is the Community Rip Live, and we love it. Hey, Nick.
Yeah.
I hear today is like Liberation Day or something. Something about tariffs at 4 o'clock. I don't know. What in the hell is going on?
I'm not paying too much attention to it, honestly. I think, I don't, we're still in kind of a wait and see. Like you could argue that we are trying to carve out a bottom. But until we kind of confirm that double bottom, it's just kind of a wait and see. Because like, there's no where price is at currently. We literally just ripped into the declining 10 and 20-day moving average on like the SPY and the Qs. So it would not be very difficult to roll this market and get us that second leg down. And that's kind of what I'm still, despite Tesla's action today, I'm still in the camp that there's a potential we see one more leg down. Like best case scenario, setup wise, in my opinion, is us to kind of do that and kind of build out like an inverse head and shoulders underneath the 200-day before we ultimately kind of rip through it and push kind of like higher up towards the high end of this range. But
How much lower?
What's that?
How much lower, Nick?
I mean, that's the thing. Like I have a very, like I've said in the past, I have a very difficult time swinging to the short side because like I want to cover so fast. The FOMO kicks in, and I think the market's going to reverse. So the measured move on the Qs is still down to that 420, 440 area. Whether or not that actually completes out there, I mean, obviously time will tell. But if like the Qs, if we start to roll and the Qs kind of take out that 465, 468, like we can't hold it out there, I'd be getting real defensive again. And because there's no reason that you should be kind of all in right here until you see that 490, almost 500 get taken out. I think you could. I think some IBD guys could argue that this is a Livermore shake. You know, we gapped lower, took out the pivot low, rallied all day. It's just we need more information. You can have your bias, but I think I still think we need more information.
That sounds like a very prudent and practical idea, Nick.
It is. I mean, you've got to have your bias, and you got to have the names and the stocks that you're looking to go after. But just play small.
So the way I see it is something that started last July, last August, which has been tech weakness, yen carry trade. etc. You see the rapid move down. You are now experiencing breadth expansion. If you look at, I don't know, let's take a look at a firm, for example.
There you go.
All right. So August 5th, a firm was what, 21, 22?
Something like that, yeah.
And so it's had a 100% move. Obviously, it's gone higher and given it back quite a bit here. But this, to me, when I'm looking further out in expansion, this is breadth expansion. Tech has continued to be weak since this day last year. But you've seen 100% moves in lots of other names. I went through the top 30 S&P for Q1. I don't think one name that outperformed was tech, right? And so you're starting to see breadth expansion on a larger time frame is what I see, and weakness in tech to help that go along. And so the way I look at this is it's a double bottom from 2024 July timeframe, right? And so typically double bottoms are 6 to 8 months later. Sometimes it's a little bit less, a little bit more, depends on, 4 to 8 months later. So that's the way I'm kind of looking at this thing. And if you're looking at the SPX, starting from 1987's Black Friday crash, this is right at that 100% extension of the move, and we had the same extension in 2015, 2016, and we consolidated for about 16, 18 months. So there's a lot of people losing their hair, their patience and stress over this. I think you have maybe a move higher from here, try to get back to all-time highs. Maybe we go right above it and then come back and retest this area one more time before the end of the year, and then we're off to the races again. So there's a lot of chop, a lot of people getting very, very calm. Sorry, not calm, but very confident on where the direction of the markets is. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I've been confident that we were going lower, and my base case was somewhat of a correction, and I liked the maybe potential capitulation on Monday. I mean, that was crashy for a lot of people, especially there the first hour of the market and pre-market. Like, it was 2.5% down on the Qs. Let me pull the Qs back up, and let's look at it on a 4-hour time frame. And this was the level that we talked about last week, right, Nick? Yeah. We wanted to see that hold. And basically, the way I look at this is exactly what I described on the call last week. I would like to see an undercut and go. That would be my bullish case, and look what we got. An undercut and go. So I'm not saying that it's only up from here, but I think the chop is probably going to wind up being a chop up. And could it build out a bear flag, and could it fall down further? Yeah, but I think we have a good area of support around that 466 level, 467 level on the Qs, and I would just play against that, and that's what I'm doing. I got assigned some puts last week. I mean, I didn't want to see Broadcom get beat up that bad on my 180 puts, but look at it now, it's at 170. So I mean, I'm going to complain about $10 because I took some money for waiting for the price to hit on Broadcom. Nah, I'm not worried about it too bad. Would I've loved it to stay closer to 180? Sure, but am I ready to just capitulate out of a position I just started? Not at all. So I think just looking at the Q for me, I want to see that 466 area hold, and if it doesn't, then I mean we're looking lower. I don't know if we're going to come down to that 420 level, but I would feel pretty safe to say that 448 level, 450 level would be the next stopping point.
What do you think the catalyst? Is it an interest rate thing, or do you think it's a tariff thing? if we do start to roll? Do you foresee a catalyst?
I've posted a couple times about this, Nick, on Stocktwits. I think it's just indecisiveness. Like the market wants to know whatever the rules are, let them know the rules, right? Going back and forth just causes indecision and people being uncomfortable with anything. It's hard for companies to take on inventory, right? When is it going to be a 25% tariff? Is it going to be a 45% tariff? Is it going to be no tariff, right? So I think it's just hard to do business when you don't know the rules of the road. And today's event, for example, right? Like we're going to see either we're going to have retaliatory tariffs higher, or we're going to back off and say tariffs are going to be less, or we're going to put a moratorium on those tariffs for a month or whatever it is. And that just causes indecision. It's this seesaw back and forth of, I don't know what you're going to do. And now, you guys know me well enough. I'm not a news trader. I've never been big on trading news, but we're getting ping pong back and forth from one side of the table to the other. And for me, I would rather just kind of plan and wait until we get more of an all clear signal. But again, on the Qs, I like that 466 area. So that's kind of where my head's at. If you noticed, I'm sporting my Stocktwits mug today, not with my red bottle. So there you go. There's your indicator.
That's solid. I think technically 420 is going to be hard. That's just like,
I agree.
You're sitting at 3 standard deviations on the weekly. The problem is we can't find a bounce, right? Like on the indices themselves. Stocks, if you look at last week on Monday when we gapped below, or even Friday's moved down, the amount of stocks that were actually making new lows versus the prior recent lows was, I think, a handful. I think it was Google and Microsoft were the 2 names. Not Meta, not Tesla, not Apple, not anything else. And then obviously on Monday, a lot more made new lows versus that pivot low. But it still wasn't Tesla, it still wasn't Apple, and it still wasn't the other names like AMD and stuff like that, right? So in general, there's price action positive divergence, right? That's what even though the index or the indices that you may be following may be acting stupid and selfishly not going anywhere, there's names underneath that are participating in a way that keeps you hopeful for the time being. Dude, you guys, a lot of people are asking for S&P 4,800, and you want a second bear market in 3 years of 30-something%? Because that's what you're asking for, right? Ultimately,
I saw some statistic on that recently, GP, and like that is so rare for anything like that to happen. And if it were, we're like the economy and the market are in big time trouble if that were to happen.
Yeah, and it's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but we've talked about this how many times over and over. Without a secondary catalyst, there is no next leg down. Right now, the primary catalyst, if you saw my chart from last week or a couple of weeks ago when I was comparing the news action of 2022 and 2025, it's one word. It's tariffs. It's tariffs, 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 tariffs. So unless you get a secondary catalyst to the downside, I don't see much further downside. If it obviously if it breaks this level, you got to get defensive. But right now you have an extremely solid level to trade against. It's where we were in 2024. Yep. It's where we are now. If it fails, it fails. Like things happen, but and
the problem I see, like technically, is that if we don't pop out of here like sooner rather than later, we're going to start to see that 200-day moving average start to flatline, and that is going to be a bitch. Because if that 200-day flatlines, like you're basically going to be limited to like range plays, because everything's going to we're going to need time to either get that thing to curl up or curl down. If we start to curl that thing down, oh God, I don't really
It wants to roll over at that point, right? Like once it goes flat or starts to decline, it wants to roll over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? When you're under the 200 day in general, resistance is resistance. There's no fighting it, right? Like
No.
until it gets over it again, right? But until then, the assumption is you take a trade to the 200 SMA and then you sell it until it gets back over, right? And so that can happen for months, that can happen for 3 days, it can happen for 2 weeks, whatever it is. But it's a line that's very arbitrary, but it's what
Yeah, right.
everyone uses, right? So
It's the easiest metric to define trend on almost any time frame. So, yeah, I'm
yeah, and that's where you have hopeful, right? You still
yeah,
have a rising 200 week, rising 50 week. They're not flatlining. So if your largest time frame is still pointing up or sloping up, then the daily eventually should resolve higher, right?
yeah, or yeah,
That's the thought process, at least.
Well, here you go. This I saw this I think yesterday posted, and where was the chart? I think it was Google. I thought it was Google.
While you're searching, GP,
There we are.
you mentioned Apple. I was gonna say that, like, dude, Apple is really starting to become one of my favorite mag names. Like, it looks pretty good.
Yeah. We'll talk about it in a second.
So
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Nick. Ben.
yeah. The Google chart I think is emblematic of what my base case is right now. You see this right, and there's myself included, but there's going to be people who's like, all right, we've got a potential head and shoulders if it goes up. Well, if it goes up, like you're going to there, right? So you have to go up, and then if I measure that out, right, from somewhere yesterday up, like that's still close to 24% on Google, right? So I'm not saying it goes up in a straight line, but if it's going to still fall off the cliff, we know the head and shoulders is one of the most powerful patterns out there. And if it plays out to the pattern, or if it's a fake out pattern, right, you're going to have a big move either to the upside or the downside. But for now, I think you can play Google to the upside for roughly 20% from here.
Yeah. I mean, even if it puts in that right shoulder, by the time it puts in that right shoulder, that 200 day should be catching up to the neckline. Oh, that would be a pretty setup, either in either direction.
Yeah, we're getting to culmination points. I definitely think there's stuff to be concerned about. I'm not saying there isn't, but I don't think it's all of them. Like today, I sold my RH position, right? It's I don't have enough of a buffer going into earnings. I think I made like 10, maybe 15% on the buys, and I don't want to risk it. Why? Because this is one of the charts, if you pull it up, Ben, of RH, for example.
Yep. Give me just a second.
And so, like, this is one of those things that I was pretty confident a couple of weeks ago until I started looking a little bit more, and I'm like, if you go to the weekly here, you see how this is distinctly different than the COVID time frame. It was a massive move down right into the rising 200 week, that red moving average you'll see on the left side of Ben's screen. And this time it was a big move into the declining, sloping 200 week moving average, and it got rejected. So you're at the bottom of the base here, and if this falls down, so I'll show you an example of where it did fail. And so this is why I don't want to take the risk. Yeah, exactly. It's now sloping down too, so it's rejecting it. So here, and you're at the bottom of the base, it's not worth taking this for me. Maybe you want to be long and you think fundamentals are great and they'll be fine, but this has a potential to go all the way back to 80 or 90, right? And that's the COVID lows. And so if you pull up Nike here as well, Ben?
I would love to.
Yeah. This is a very, very, very good example of how it played out for Nike. Not saying that every stock behaves exactly the same, but on a weekly in COVID, it bounced off the rising 200 week, and now during this time, it got rejected from that 200 week. It tried to pull above and then got absolutely slammed. And so, if you're in the position here and you want to hold longer term, yeah, but I just got in. I'm not risking. So there are concerns for me because on a longer time frame, a lot of the stocks that have gone nowhere are actually looking like they're going to break down, right? Like XYZ is another one, PayPal's another one. They are now rejecting sloping down weekly and monthly moving averages. So there's got to be a lot of technical stuff that has to happen for these names. Otherwise, they're going to go lower, and I don't want to take that risk on. But anyway, this is what I'm saying. There are concerns in the market for sure. I don't think Mag 7 is where the concerns are really there, personally.
No, that's probably your safest. It's probably your safest play right now. I would argue is your mag names.
I'm also in none of the mag names outside of Tesla. Sold out of Amazon, sold out of Netflix, sold out of Google. I'm happy for everyone if they hold and it goes higher, but I feel like there's asymmetric risk for holding those, and there's better movements out there that I'd rather be long in.
Well, coming out of major bears, we typically see like a batch of leaders really start to emerge. Like let's say 2022, we had all the mag names and mag and SMH that really led out of that, right? From 2022 all the way into new highs. Let's just hypothetically say that Qs kind of drag on. So we've been sideways now for what? About almost 6+ months. Is there a sector or group of stocks that you're looking at that you think that could emerge? Not necessarily saying that they're going to replace mag names, but
chips. For me, it's chips,
Yes.
right? Like, so I talked about the SOX bottom, I think a couple of days ago, is when you have, these are not necessarily always bottoms, but they're pretty damn close to being bottoms. Not SMH, bring up SOX. I think it's about, because SMH is weighted differently.
Yep.
SOX is a better balance. SOX had a 27% move down during that deep seek kind of yen carry trade. Bulls tried to hold it, and just in the last 4 days, coming into Monday, or maybe Friday, whatever it was down straight down 4 days, 13 or 14%. So like we talked about this before, it's one's volume-based capitulation, and the other one is sentiment capitulation. If you look at all of the semi charts, the monthlies look terrible, right? Like there isn't anyone to tell you that you should be buying chips here. And I'm telling you that you should be considering chips because your risk to reward is powerful here on so many different names. And our baby Ben, AMD, I think was the only chip name to put in a green month. Only chip name.
I noticed that.
Wow.
I was like, what? This still makes sense.
I put this together, I don't know, a week or two ago, but there's AMD. I mean, I expect it to make a decision within the next 30, 45 days.
Yeah. I think people are getting faked out by a lot of the intraday craziness that's happening. Look, if you just bring up the intraday chart of the NQs here, or whatever, the Qs, whatever you want to do, it's frustrating if you're watching this, right? Like we just gave up 300 points and now we're up 100 points, and it's really hard for people to kind of reconcile that, I think.
Well, we've talked a lot about mental capital, right? And part of me selling positions was not only do I not have the seat time to watch the market all day, but I didn't want to see gains that I had made just vanish. And I knew I had high flyers. So that was a reason to lighten up what I had to be able to move it later. I mean, I said all along, like, if it goes high and I'm wrong, great, I'll buy higher. But I don't want to let these profits disappear, and they're not profits until you sell, right? So I agree. Like when you see this market and you're somewhat active and you're fully invested and you're not putting new money to work, like these are times where you're just like, oh my God, like I don't want to watch my portfolio play seesaw, right? I don't want to watch it, go all the way down and then I'm down a third of what I had.
Yep.
I think selling is a difficult. Stop losses I think are easy. Selling winners I find to be difficult. Re-entering, periods like this, the active traders, like I think that the easiest prerequisite and like rule to implement is, how Duzio talks about his huckleberries being stacked.
Yep.
We're talking about like direction of trend here. So if you're coming from a cash position and looking to start getting involved to the long side, there's absolutely no reason to be getting into positions when you don't have those huckles stacked and trending accordingly. Otherwise, you're asking to get chopped up and you're asking to literally wipe that mental capital. If you're trading to the short side, I mean, then by all means you're in alignment with the trend. But
Yep.
yeah,
Hey,
I think you should talk a little bit more about selling winners, Ben.
Just some market news that just happened. AppLovin and Amazon emerge as TikTok bidders ahead of the deadline, according to the Wall Street Journal. I find that
Exit liquidity.
I find that fascinating. Well, for one, we're completely doing something that we didn't plan on here, but Amazon has already built basically their version of the TikTok shop in the Amazon app. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that, but they basically already built their version of the TikTok shop. So I don't know. I find that interesting that Amazon would want to be in that business, but not AppLovin. GP, that's a name you've been in.
Exit liquidity. You look at the AppLovin chart. They're just trying to punch anything up. It's yeah. I wouldn't believe the rumors. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. But they're trying to get out. Is my opinion. I don't even know how AppLovin makes sense to buy TikTok. But we've been hearing, what is it? Oracle, Microsoft, Netflix, Amazon Now, AppLovin. How many more rumors can we get until we actually find the actual bidder, right? And so I'd probably use it to. Oh, nice.
So it's Amazon Hall. It's in beta, but it's basically the TikTok shop. It's all the same stuff.
Nice.
Anyway,
I think so. Like let's chat about Tesla, right? So what?
Yeah.
Nick, you're concerned about Tesla here, and you can think it goes lower, right? And so I want to understand why you think it can go lower. Is this a technical conversation?
Wait, whoa, what?
Tesla, you said you think it can go lower.
No, I think despite Tesla's action today, I think that I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. Despite Tesla's action, I think that there's still a potential for the broader markets to roll.
Oh, okay.
I think Tesla
Okay,
by I think this is kind of a similar either conversation or situation to whatever, I don't know, whatever, 2023 when Apple and Tesla were not participating. I think when Apple and Tesla start running here, I think that's when we're going to see the markets like start to rip again. Those are going to be the two tells.
Yeah. And so like Tesla's action today was kind of the definition of what this market has been doing to people.
Yeah.
It is down from 488 to 270, right? It's cut in half based on all these things that people were selling in. I don't know if it's priced in or not. That's not the conversation, but they were selling based on all these news headlines. And then the news headline comes out and it goes straight into the 50-week, 200-week moving average on the open. I'm like, yeah, okay, this doesn't make any sense, right? Like, I understand that their numbers were lower. I actually had their delivery numbers around 320 is what I was thinking, because they haven't produced Model Ys on large scale in a long time. And I'm like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. So, but this is what they do, right? They crushed calls and puts on the open and go back and retest, and now it's pushing higher. I I don't know what Tesla will do tomorrow, because that's an enigma to 97% of the population. But what I do know is on larger time frames, the 78% retracement off each one of these moves has created over 100% moves each and every time. January 2023, 101 to 217 in 7 to 9 weeks. April 2024, I think we went to 138 to 270 or something like that. And then October 2024, when we had another retracement, I can't remember the time frames, but each one of these retracements, there's been 3 of them in the last 3 years, have produced more than 100% gains. And the last one was actually the October one, where it went from 213 to 488. And we're at the similar kind of technical point. If anyone tells you that they are perfect Tesla traders, you should listen to them and pick their ears and brains, because this thing is wild. So I just know today's price action is very similar to the January 2023 bottom, especially with that volume.
I mean, if you had to pick one stock in the market, what other name would you, if you had to pick one to DCA, and what, like, I feel like Tesla would be the one.
I think it is. I think people's timelines are what's important, and so a lot of people talk about, oh, why didn't you sell at 488? Because I don't care, right? Like, my thing is, I'm not trading this. This has been an investment for a long time. If I'm trading it, it's with options and handling it that way. But for my share position, every time it gets to a level that I think is a really critical level, I'm going to add.
Yeah.
And you guys do what works for you. But yeah, I think nothing has really changed in my thesis from 2014, which is it's a stock that's going to change the world. And Elon, as much as you may hate him or like him or whatever, none of what he's doing, like, everyone talks about his Doge reference, right? He's like, fire everyone, break everything. That is literally his MO. He bought a $44 billion social media company, and the first thing he did was fire 80% of the workforce. It's how he works, and that rubs people the wrong way. So, but I like it technically. Hopefully we see follow through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sums it up. You got to see follow through. We failed up here at the, what is that, the 50 weekly last week, so right around 290. We've got the moving averages sloping, so you got to get through all that war zone. Yeah. You've got the 200-day at 288, so you got to get through that. It's not a surprise to see a 5%, 11% day in Tesla, but neither is a minus 15%, right? Like, we can look at, so like you gotta know what you're in for. You gotta be willing to stomach it if that's what you want to do. So like, for me, it's wait and see. Get above 290 and then let's talk, right? Like, let's see from there.
A lot of the names out there are, like, the patterns and the charts within the last, let's say, month all look very similar. Whether they're above the 200-day or below, they all got kind of a double bottom-ish look to them. You're either buying kind of down here in the low end of it, in the camp that we're not going to break lower, or yeah, like kind of like you said, wait until we. I mean, if you think about it though, and we do have bust out of here, as long as we can keep that 200-day sloping up. I mean, if price pushes past or through these declining, like the shorter term moving averages, man, we're on for a squeeze then.
Oh, it could go from 290 to 400 in a few days, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not disputing the power and the quickness that the stock can
Well, I
move.
mean, stocks in general, I think, all have
Yeah.
a similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I want to get back to what I was about to do, which is a little bit of housekeeping here. Let's go. I mentioned that Google chart earlier, and I actually got that from, where's it at here? There it is. The Stocktwits Award, which our very humble G Pisa is part of. But I actually got that from the professor. The professor posted the Google chart. I think it was yesterday, and I liked it. So shout out to the professor. Microm and I was going back and forth a little bit on X and the XAI merger, which I think the jury will never be out for it. But if we see investors called stink, we know why. Anyway, and then G Pisa, our friend, and Don Corleone, who is winning right now. But hey, go to stocktwits.com/awards and vote on all your favorite stuff. We voted on the cash tag. I think we said it had to be Palantir or Master MSTR. That's what we said it had to be. So I need to punch that sucker in there. There we go. But Nvidia is everybody else. Nvidia is so 2023, right, GP?
I think so. It might be 2025 now too. So let's watch this one.
Yeah, I'm ready for that. I just saw here at the top we had a trending ticker. Let's see what comes around. All these are trending, but with the what's trending here in Top W, Top Win International. Let's click oh boy here and see why Top W, Top Win is trending. A trading debut, so it's the first day. Multiple halts. That sounds fun. All right.
You know,
So
is
recently
CoreWeave up
public
there at all?
Chinese company. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is CoreWeave up there at all in the trending?
Yeah, it should be.
I don't know. I don't
Or at least it
know.
was yesterday.
Let's
Okay.
see all the trending. I like looking at all the trending because, frankly, I can't believe Tesla isn't trending higher. It was at like 33 when we started the show. App 11 is trending. Hey, Polkadot's trending. Look at there. Which one were you want to see? There's Restoration Hardware, GP.
Yeah. I was just wondering if CoreWeave, because
Yeah, I don't see
the
it.
like when
That was what was the
it'd be
ticker
nice
for
to
that?
see this trending because I think CoreWeave is one of the few new IPOs. And can you remember the last time we've had a hated IPO as much as CoreWeave was?
A hated IPO.
They priced down before IPO. When have we seen that in the recent future?
Who did that? No, it'll come to me in the middle of the night and I'll scream it out in my sleep. There was someone that had the price down, and I want to say this was during 2022, maybe.
Oh, the SPACs? Yeah,
No,
like
it wasn't a SPAC. No,
Instacart. Instacart.
it might have been.
Instacart priced down.
It
But
might
they were
have
still valuing it based on COVID numbers. So like that's I mean like yeah.
CRWV.
But I don't think there was I don't like I can't remember the last time we've seen an IPO that was just not loved at all. So maybe
I
it's
don't
my
see
bias or
CoreWeave
whatnot.
at all on the list here.
Yeah,
It
it's not
was
at all.
yesterday. CRWV is the ticker.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
not in the
not there.
top
So that's
100.
interesting, right? From a
Yeah.
trending perspective, it'd be nice
Yeah.
to see it trending higher, but obviously the community is not talking about it, which is my whole point, which is it's still hated. It's just it literally is moved
Grr.
50 or
Sorry,
60% in the last 24 hours.
Grr has been trending for a while now. I have not paid any attention to
Yeah, it
Grr.
really has.
What is Grr?
Gorilla Technology Group.
I know, but what do they do?
No idea.
Package
But
software.
what WTF? These are hilarious ticker symbols.
They're software.
They're an AI technology company too,
They're in software.
based out of Taiwan.
Speaking of software, Nick, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about cybersecurity and specifically Zscaler. I'm going to pull that chart up momentarily. I looked at Zscaler again today. It actually looks pretty freaking good for all the market gyrations we've had over the past week and a half. Like, I think that's holding up pretty well.
Yeah, it had a green month as well.
I mean,
Nick,
yeah,
some
ZS,
other names in.
yeah,
Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
ZS Crowd, I think, are my faves, and then you have RBRK. Palantir fall under cybersecurity.
Does anyone actually know what Palantir does?
Yeah, that's what I've heard it mentioned in cybersecurity.
They take over and overthrow nation states.
Oh.
That's valid.
RBRK, Palo Alto, obviously.
Yeah. My darling jewels,
UIBR.
Sentinel-1 does not look as good as any of those others, but you do have some of that going on, which I always appreciate when I see that some support holding. But I really like the Zscaler. It was between Zscaler and Palo Alto, and I didn't, or not Palo Alto, I'm sorry, Broadcom, and my puts didn't click on Zscaler, which obviously you see why. There's the huckleberries you were talking about, Nick. There's your huckleberries.
Yeah.
All the huckleberries right there. Shout out Duzio. We gotta see if we can get
Literally gone
Duzio.
nowhere for months. It's been sideways since when? Since basically April of 2024, right? Where it got beat down.
Yeah.
You can honestly say it's been sideways since April 2022, right?
Yeah.
But wow, it's building, and it has shown insane relative strength, I think, until Monday, right? Like this whole time through, they finally dropped it on Monday, but it's recovered pretty well.
But they dropped everything on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, they dropped everything on Monday.
Yeah, but it's recovered really well comparatively, right? So
Absolutely.
I think this, if you want a DCA, is fine as well, but over what's that level? That I think it's over
20.
that where it's wick from 220,
217-ish.
217. Over that, and this thing goes ape.
Hey, one thing that we all three have talked about is like when something is in a range forever or when it finds support. And specifically, I'm thinking about this PayPal and, XYZ chart. Let me pull up the XYZ. I think it was a better version of that maybe. I drew the purple line there, right? Like that. You see people say it's at support, it's at support, it's at support. And would that be a place that you would hope to be able to buy? Yes, absolutely. But when price keeps coming back down to there, don't you have to worry that the bottom is going to fall out at some point, Nick?
I mean, yeah, I would. It's not even.
I mean, I'm sure there were people who were buying right here, right, saying it's at support, it's at support, and then what does it do? It loses. I don't know how many percent that is, but
I mean,
it
one
goes on down another 25%.
Yeah, that should have acted as your Wyckoff spring right there too. So like when XYZ in particular, like once that bottom did fell out and it recovered, we should have seen a more explosive move. You know, maybe kind of move sideways and watch the volatility tighten up a little bit at the high end of the range. But either way, we should have seen a rip out of there. And when it pushed up, this is the daily, right? Or this is the weekly. So whenever
weekly.
What's the red line? Is that the 40 week?
200.
200. Okay.
200 weekly.
I mean, either way, it failed to break out of that range. a lot of red flags, and on top of that, it's just like dead money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
But in general, I'm not just talking about block, right? I'm just saying when price keeps coming back to that support area for months and months and months on end, how good do you feel about that actually being support, GP? Or do you want to see it bounce out of there before you take action? Do you want to see? Do you want to buy there? What do you do?
I'm this close to selling the position I have, which has underperformed the markets for nearly a decade now. Outside of a 8-month, 9-month period where it went bananas, it has literally gone nowhere since 2017, 2018. The reason is not because it's gone nowhere, but the reason is if you go to the weekly, it's a very similar setup to the restoration hardware. The 200 week is now pointing down. There's going to be a lot. You have to do a lot technically to reclaim this and have it sloping up. And the part of the problem is not just that it's sloping down, is that, like, if you look at restoration hardware, if you look at Nike, had similar setups, they all at least tag the 200 week moving average. This thing didn't even get close, right? Like, if you're talking about relative weakness, this thing didn't even get close. Can it hold? Sure. It's in a base, it's whatever, it's cheap, but cheap has been in this market a fairly decent value trap.
I mean, roughly 10%, right? Below the 200 week, which if you can't even reach your 200 week, you're not doing something right. And I don't want to hear the people, I don't want to hear the cult of block come after us over this. Like, it is what it is. I mean, last time I traded it was back here, right? And it's the same price that it was back in 2019. So, like, that doesn't mean you can't go up, right? Which would be maybe to the 80s, and that's a great gain. But are you going to sell it? I don't know. I mean, I would rather fish somewhere else if it were me.
Yeah, it's on top of all that, it's the larger time frames that are miserable, right? The 50-month is also pointing down on XYZ. The weeklies are pointing down. The amount of technical savior this will need over the next 12 to 18 months is
The
phenomenal.
monthly, the quarterly, like, you name it.
So can it go higher? Sure, that's not the argument here. But if you're using us, or if we're using our technical abilities, this is fighting a trend. And this is fighting a trend on the quarterly, the monthly, the weekly, and also the daily. So why I am about to take loss on it and reallocate that money is because of all those reasons. We all are human ultimately, and I don't want to take the loss, but I think what losses do for me quite often are free up mental capital. And that's powerful in itself.
Hey, we got about 5 minutes, guys. You want to take a couple quick chart requests? I see a few of them in the chat. Thanks for giving us those tickers there, chat. Target. I mean, just what GP said. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but you look at this 200 weekly rolling over. That doesn't mean it can't trade, right? But at the same time, like, I'm not compelled to want to buy it here, even though it could be a double bottom off this 100 level. But at the same time, let's go to the monthly.
You have a rising 200 month on
the
target.
monthly doesn't look as bad as XYZ block, but doesn't look great. At least you're holding the 200 monthly. I mean, that's a god moving average, basically, right, Nick?
Yeah.
Dude, it looks awful, right? It's held twice now. So that's, if you are going to try, you should wait for that.
Yeah. Any other commentary, Nick, on Target, or nah?
I mean,
you're a Minnesotan.
Target was one of those big names that was involved in all the news shit. Like, yeah. I think between that, I think, I don't know. Like Target and Walmart, I think are. I don't know what to really say about Target. I think they've got a lot of shit to work through, though. I mean, like up here, let's say just in Minneapolis, St. Paul, you can't walk into a Target without pretty much everything other than clothing at this point is behind a locked plexiglass. No matter how you look at that, like that's revenue. So I don't know. I don't know what to really make of other than the chart. The chart looks
All right.
rough to me.
Okta, next name, cybersecurity name.
Yeah.
Running face first into the rolling over 200 weekly. I mean, you want to see it above that, right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter what the gyrations are down below between 111 and let's just call it 90. It doesn't matter until you get above. I mean, you can see the failures, right?
But your approach weakness into the crosses are always powerful, though. So just keep that in mind.
You basically have that. I mean, that it's a 3-week tight also right there at the high end of that range. So like if you identified this as a stage 1 base, the only thing that really held this thing down likely is just the overall market conditions. Otherwise, like this thing was set to go, and you could still even be looking at a 3-week tight, a little bit of a shake and bake.
I like it above 118. 118 on a weekly close.
Totally.
Perfect. Do we have another one? Anyone?
Yeah, there's a W.
Anyone for a swing? W. You're a Wayfair boy there, GP.
I can't be a Wayfair boy because it's doing nothing. It's in, like I don't know how. It's got accumulation. That's all I got for you guys. It's literally in a base that's gone nowhere. Things are pointing down. If all of these names that have base in the moving averages are pointing down, break down, we're in for a world of hurt across the board. They are profitable, but I think if the tariffs come in, you could see a lot of these names break down, right? So.
There used to be this guy on Stocktwits. His name was John Lee. His handle was Chart Addict, I think. He was with the iBank Coin crew. I don't know what he's gone on to do, but his favorite setup, being that we're talking about these moving averages and them sloping down, when you see a 250-day start to slope down, moving averages start to converge, and then you see price gap above those moving averages, that's your long entry right there. You risk the gap.
Yep.
With those moving averages curling down and price gapping above, you've got a lot of shorts trapped. And if it runs, you have the cushion from there. But
that's the technical savior you need. You need something astronomical to change behavior, right?
Yep.
And you're gonna need it in like 500 stocks.
Yeah.
Right? Like we just talked about Target, XYZ, PayPal, Wayfair. All these names are gonna need astronomical moves to get out of this. Otherwise, it's a long and hard grind.
All right, last word, guys. I'll go first. I'm going to say something I like to do previously. Are we up from here or down from here? I'm going to say we're higher from here, at least into next week by the next show.
I'm going to say I think that we put in a definitive near-term bottom, whether it's existing or we see it within the next couple weeks. I think April is going to be a major turning point for the year.
I think Tesla will be above 400 by May.
Tomorrow at the close.
Yes.
That's what I think, but I've been proven wrong many times on Tesla because it's impossible. Sorry, pardon the French. It's really impossible to dictate where it's at, but I think we're higher. I think we're going to chop. I think if we get back to 6,100, we will see another leg down right back to this level. Once we take out 6,100, we're on our way to 7,700.
All right. Hey, guys, we did it again. Another awesome show. Hey guys, everybody, thanks for joining us on the Community Rip Live. We love it. We love you being here every Wednesday with us at 2:15. We can't wait to see you again next week at the same time. Peace out. Trade well.